Well, after this rather dynamic introduction, let me warmly welcome you to the last session of the first day of the Strategic Ark, if you just join us, or to invite you to maybe in a natural way go further than the discussion in the session that has just finished. I think we established a couple of things about the new reality that we are facing, the reality of ongoing Russian aggression against Ukraine, of an acute threat from Russia to all of our countries. Second, the US expectations that the Europeans would take primarily responsibility for conventional deterrence on the continent, not an unfair expectation from the US, while the United States would provide this strategic backup. But also, thirdly, the new reality, I would say it's an increased mobilization in Europe, most of Europe, including the countries whose representatives we have in this session, mobilization to actually meet this challenge, not just with words, but also with action and with development of the hard power. So I hope that during this session we'll discuss and establish what we have, what kind of capabilities we already have at our disposal, what we are still lacking, understanding the gaps and weaknesses if the US is much less engaged in Europe, or in extreme cases if it's disengaged from Europe, and then how we can realistically adjust to this situation, politically, strategically, militarily, in a time frame that would actually make sense, in a time frame that would respond to the challenges at hand. I may quote Secretary General Mark Rutte. If anyone thinks here that the European Union or Europe as itself can defend itself without the United States, keep on dreaming. You can't, we can't, but maybe we can. Maybe we can establish also a new way of burden sharing with the United States. Let me go straight to Ambassador Linkevicius. Linas, you have witnessed in your career that included the post of Lithuanian's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Defense, also permanent representative to NATO, right now ambassador to Sweden. So you witnessed quite a lot of transatlantic crisis. You also witnessed probably quite a lot of the calls for the Europeans to take more responsibility for their own defense, usually ending in adjustments rather than revolution. What is different this time, if indeed we are entering a new reality? What we should prepare for? US disengagement or a different form of burden sharing or burden shifting?
Thank you very much. Well, could be long answer, we have no time, but you're right. Through this experience which I went through before, I can say that we were undergoing stress tests not once, and NATO as well. As we know, France was left military chain of command for some time, and NATO HQ was moved from Paris to Brussels, and so on and so forth. But we were, as Europeans, we were accustomed, I would say, or used to act only with Americans. And by the way, Americans were also quite sensitive if in Europe were some signs of autonomy or efforts to do something without United States, I can tell. But we never strive to do that. We tried to do that together. And definitely when we were launching some operations, we were looked around where are American airlift capabilities, lift capabilities, intelligence in particular, logistics, not talking about nuclear shield. And therefore we were always, at least not just Lithuania, I know Poland as well, we were criticizing these initiatives like strategic autonomy. from France, because it smells a bit like isolation, which is not good. Then it was explained it's about capabilities. If it's about capabilities, it's okay. If it's not politically divisive. But again, looking into the history, I believe maybe generals will remember, or maybe not. But when I was defense minister at that time, and when we were choosing title for European Defense Agency, which is within European Union, there was fight between the two titles. It was a group of countries leading by UK, wanted to call it European Capabilities Agency, and there were a group calling European Procurement Agency. So it's obvious what was behind. And it's still valid, by the way, although we have no time for lengthy procurement procedures. By the way, it's to be learned now, but we still somehow managing to do that. And again, one more point on wake-up calls. Usually we are not learning lessons, basically. We're talking about lessons. And I don't know how many wake-up calls needed to wake up for us sometimes. But when it comes to the defense spendings, I remember a speech of Defense Secretary Bob Gates from Obama administration after first term. He was from a Republican, as usual it was tradition, Republican secretary in Democratic cabinet. And he made this farewell speech to security community in Brussels. It was closed audience. It was not public speech, but was, believe me, quite strong. 2011 probably, something like that. And I would not quote, but it was said, guys, wake up. It's enough. We will not pay all your bills. We will not pay for everything what you're doing. And generation of politicians in America coming, young people, they don't know what is Cold War. They don't want to know. They want to focus on the problems in the United States. And you should do yourself and should spend those bloody 2% of GDP for defense, which was not happening for a long time, as you know. So it was Obama. It was not Trump. When Trump needed to come and to knock the table and demand, right? And then suddenly, after 2018 NATO summit in Brussels, it was counted that Rutte, at that time he was Prime Minister of Netherlands, he said, Mr. President, we increased by defense spendings altogether by 100 billion euros thanks to your leadership. So it saved a line psychologically, I believe. And then things moved from the stalemate in the summit, which was a very difficult situation. So we are already, we know our history. We know it was not enough to understand and to learn. And now time is even more important, because now we have to make things faster, better, less bureaucracy, cutting red tape. We're not doing that sufficiently. And that's my point.
Indeed, let's talk strategic planning, let's talk capabilities, and let's talk the speed of reaction. General Schilling, you are, as deputy Chod, in the middle of the process of radical transformation of the Bundeswehr. That includes not just an influx of money, but also, I would say, new strategic approach with the new military strategy, with the new plan for the development of the armed forces. The ambition is there for Germany to be the strongest conventional army in Europe. But could you walk us through the main elements of this new approach, the ambitions, and maybe some of the challenges that you are witnessing in your daily work?
Yes, for Germany and the German armed forces, the world changed several times, but it also changed last year when there was a change in our basic law, which allows the German parliament to spend more money on defense purposes. This was not possible before in the way it was necessary, and therefore we weren't able to address all capability failures we had. There was no lack of recognizing them and no lack of knowing them, but there was a lack of possibilities to go against this. And after this decision, which was taken in the last February, we really worked hard on our capability assessment. We accepted the capability targets on the NATO summit last year in The Hague. And now our new strategic documents are fundamentally based on those decisions. Of course, also from our first national security strategy we have and our defense politics guidelines. But to be honest, those fundamentally changes in also spending and the budget for defense purposes was very decisive. And now, for the first time, we have a complete strategy and concept for the defense, which consists of the two pillars: the military strategy, as you mentioned before, and very important for the military strategy is to define what are the threats, what is the military change and challenges we are facing, who is the one we have to defend against, and how will the war look like? What do we have to prepare for? Not as in the past, against everything, almost everywhere, but we now have a clear focus where we should go against. And we do this right now. And the second part, the second pillar, is the new capability profile, which prioritize and also sets some certain issues like, of course, UAVs, counter UAVs, autonomy, AI issues, as well as also a resilient logistic systems, which is also something. And I guess the both of us, we are really convinced of that this is decisive for the executability of the family of plans from NATO, that we will be able to bring the troops through Central Europe to the eastern flank. And so those are the priorities we set in the capability profile. And now we are working on fulfilling those things within the German armed forces.
Can I push you a little bit of what do you already see maybe developing as a main challenge, as a main issue? You have your marching order, but is there something that worries you particularly?
From my point of view, the most important challenge is that we get in line our military priorities, those things we now need the most important and the fast, like it could be, and the possibilities to get better, which also is relying on the industrial base, on the possibilities of the industry, what they can deliver. This is one thing. We have to synchronize and coordinate better than we had in the past. And the second thing, this is a purely military one, we have to adjust our way to fight the war. On that, we really expect to. And to be honest, I guess this is also no secret in this room. What we face or what we see now in Ukraine is not the thing we assume to be the most likely picture of the war we have to prepare for. And so therefore, this is decisive from the military point of view, that we prepare against the right things and that we regain a kind of velocity to be able to react flexible on changes with the whole system. And this is something which is important for doctrine, for training, for the idea how the war looks like, we have to prepare against. And we see many things also in the Ukraine, which is very important for us. And it's sometimes also hard to bring it through the military institution and the command and control structure.
And now let me turn to General Dymanowski. I may say from a moderator's perspective that I think Poland was slightly quicker than Germany in establishing who the main opponent is and start developing the deterrence and defense posture to counter that threat. So the journey may have started slightly earlier, but is still ongoing. So if you hear that Europe should assume the primary responsibility for conventional defense, what's your response to the question of what Poland can actually bring to the table? We have our plans, including long-term development goals and priority areas. Which of these will be especially relevant when it comes to this mission of deterring and, if needed, defending against the Russian threat?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, first and foremost. Thank you very much for having me and putting me in this panel among so great and distinguished fellow panelists. So when it comes to your question, I think very briefly and very simply, Poland as the ally has at least three very important roles for the alliance. The first one is the logistic role. So we have triple role as a area for the logistical support of the allied operations. Number one is that we will be host nation, so we'll host the allied troops which will provide deterrence and defense on the territory of Poland. Number two, we are transit nation, so we are the only one land corridor to the Baltic states, so that's why we are extremely important. And finally, number three, we are troops contributing nations, so we will provide capabilities to deter and defend together with the alliance. And when it comes to the third part, the capabilities, it might not be a kind of revelation for you because it was already announced at the end of the last year, 2025, Minister of National Defense approved the program of the development of the Polish armed forces for the next 15 years, so until 2039. And this program is threat-driven and capability-oriented. And in this program, we defined 7 development priorities. We call them the Big 7. So I think that will exactly reflect what you are asking for. So let me walk you very briefly through these Big 7 elements and give you some kind of argumentation rationale behind it. So number one, quantity multiplied by quality. So most likely, we might be outnumbered by our adversary. So that's why we need something to mitigate this difference in mass and numbers. So that's why we have to harness new technology. We will have to be well trained and better equipped than our opponents in order to mitigate all those risks and be able to outpace and outsmart the enemy. So it is about finding the right balance between quantity and quality. Number two is MDO, multi-domain operations. I know this is a buzzword recently and the latest fashion in military terminology, but put it aside, from my very simple soldier perspective, MDO is about being able to conduct, to plan and execute operations in each and every domain, including new domains, cyber and space, and make sure that we can coordinate the actions and effects in those domains. So that's why the key element in implementation of MDO is digital backbone, so the proper communication and information systems to provide connectivity and data sharing at the speed of relevance. Number three is the deterrence by denial. So it is integrated air and missile defense. And I think it is self-explanatory that we need this capability to upping the ante for Russia or any other opponents, is showing that we have very strong defense, and it should be layered from strategic down to tactical and mosaic. So different type of sensors, different types of effectors, including counter-drone sensors and effectors. Number four is deep precision strike. And in fact, we believe this is the most important and decisive capability that has to be developed, not only in Poland, but across the alliance. It is not only about striking capabilities, but also about the ISR, so intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance system, the command and control systems, and the whole targeting. That's a very important element, and that is a challenge for the Polish armed forces because historically we have never had this type of capabilities. Only recently we started building it. Number 5, reserve forces. And again, even though we will try to mitigate this difference in mass and numbers, we still need some mass because Russia has always been about mass and numbers, so we need some muscles, and only after that we will put some intelligence, we will put some systems to boost up those muscles. And that is why we are now creating a new form of military service, new form of military duty, high readiness reserve. So we are in the pipeline with this process, and some legislative changes have been already started. Number 6, drones, and I think I don't need any further explanation for that. And number 7, AI, artificial intelligence, and when coupled with quantum computing, we believe that might be a real change in the battlefield. It's something that we should develop together as the alliance, and also here in Poland. And it might be useful in many areas, I believe, for to support decision-making processes, to support planning and execution of operations, to support long-term force development processes, and at the end of the day, to support the data management and analysis. So a lot of areas to use and utilize artificial intelligence. Of course, we are aware about some challenges and risks connected with that. So the access to the large amount of data, mainly highly classified data, and of course, some offshoots of artificial intelligence like hallucinations and things like that. So we have to learn also ourselves. We need some changes in our mentality to be able to trust artificial intelligence. And those seven areas, of course, will be supported by strategic enablers like ISR, so intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, electronic warfare, but most importantly by logistics and medical support. And I will stop here because as a soldier I should be brief and to the point, so I will stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll come back to some of these elements later on, and also during the Q&A, which I assure you will have. Linas, let me come back to you. You've heard about the planning from Germany and Poland. Lithuania is an impressive case in terms of defense spending. If I'm not mistaken, 38% of defense spending, not just capabilities, but also strengthening the size of the armed forces and the overall resilience of the state. You're not a military officer, but I would still ask you if there is anything that you would advise other countries to adopt from the Lithuanian approach, what Lithuania brings to the table, and maybe also, does it all makes a difference in the eyes of the Russians? Are we actually strengthening our deterrence capability, not just talking about the capabilities that we develop?
What could be advised? To do what was promised. I already mentioned we were committed to spend 2%, but few countries did that, right? Now there are another benchmark, 3.5% for defense and 1.5% to the areas related to defense. And here jazz starts, where every country would like to be creative and try to cover by that expenses which not very much matching with military, which is not right probably approach. So that's important. Also, I'd like to say that maybe generals would agree that there are a lot of overlapping armament produced in European countries, but we have to fill gaps. And when it comes to the production, of course, speed of production is very important. So I would repeat, cutting red tape and bureaucracy, but also to make sure that we are using properly these resources. I would add, one more benchmark when we're talking about defense spending, it's not just threshold, 3.5, but also output efficiency. I like when our friend General Hodges said that in fighting, it's not so impressive what kind of percentage you have. Capabilities, matter. And that's important to note. So we are not doing enough in coordinating these things. it's also a problem. So that would be maybe in short reaction to your question.
Can I invite you, because I know you've been also dealing with Russian diplomacy, Russian pressure.
You call dealing with Russian diplomacy?
You've been on the receiving end of both Russian threats as Lithuania and also sometimes in the past Russians offer for dialogue, strategic stability. So what you can advise in terms of how do we approach the deterrence factor and
I got it.
changing the minds or affecting the minds of the Russian
2
leadership?
points from my experience with Russian diplomacy. I'll try to be as short as possible. One has to do with defense plans. If you remember, there was a period where there was a big noise and no defense plans. And at that time, I was Perm Rep at NATO. My colleague was Dmitry Rogozin. Somebody knows this name. Very colorful person, more politician than diplomat. But we were talking with him, fighting during NATO-Russia Council and then talking informally. He told me not once, don't cheat on us. You think we will believe that you do not have NATO plans? They didn't believe. And then I tried to tell to some of my colleagues in NATO Council, guys, they do not believe. If you think it will be too provocative, because there were some voices, it will be too provocative. It was, by the way, too provocative to have exercises on Article 5, if you remember. It was until, well, some 15, 16 years ago. Too provocative, let's not do that. Now it's not the case, but at that time it was. So a bit surprising for us, for newcomers, but for others it was quite normal. So they didn't believe. It was one more point. If you remember missile defense, it was proposals from highest capitals and NATO officials to cooperate with Russia on missile defense. Theater missile defense and also territorial missile defense, which is actually Article 5. You cannot outsource for Article 5 Russians to conduct territorial, but it was done. And then Rogozin asked me, as probably representing nuclear power, I don't know, which is not the case, look, so you are going to share with us this button? And then I said, probably not. Maybe exchange some data, which was actually envisaged. And then he said, so it's not serious. And if you remember, Medvedev at that time was temporary president, and he made statements. We will see how NATO is honest. Are they really mean what they say, that let's cooperate? He knew that we will not do that. And then it was correction. If you again remember that NATO will defend NATO, Russia will defend Russia, and we will be friends and we will cooperate. So we are sometimes naive, or are we pretending to be naive? I don't know. At least it's not professional. So this is also my experience from diplomacy with Russians. Let's not fool them. Let's not fool ourselves. And they are getting clear language, clear messages, and arguments on the ground. It's always the case. If you are playing games, if you're making statements, not impressing at all. Just real stuff, hard so to say, stuff can impress them and make them think about.
I think the time of the naivete with the relationship with Russia is over, and we are facing this new reality. General Schilling, I would like to come back to the issue of preparing Bundeswehr for the new reality. And sometimes we focus very much on the percentage of defense spending or particular capabilities or even particular weapon systems to develop. But as I understand, among your duties is also the issue of personal support. So could you maybe talk about maybe this slightly less glamorous or video attractive parts in which increase the readiness and then have an impact on the deterrence capabilities. Also the relationship between the armed forces and the broader society, which at the end would need to support the decision made at the political level and implemented by the military.
Yes, of course. Money is not the solution for our problems. It's the way we have to use to solve the problems. And it's not only capability in technical development, but we have to find the right people to fulfill the tasks. And this is also something we can learn from the current conflicts, that beside all automation and autonomy of systems, the number of soldiers and having the right ones is one of the most decisive points. And in my opinion, the challenges for all of our armed forces are enormous and may be very unique, because on the one hand, our weapon systems are becoming more sophisticated, and you really need experts to handle them, and you have to train those experts for years, like we do in professional armies. On the other hand, we now see new systems which are exactly of the same complexity than the traditional ones, but the usability of those systems, like the autonomous systems, is for the user much more easier, and you don't have to train them for years. And now we have to make those shift within our systems. And this is what I mentioned before when I talked about doctrine and training systems, because we have to adjust this as well. General Dymanovsky already stressed the importance of the reserve forces, and this is also something where we are very hardworking in Germany, because of course, there is those close link between the society and the armed forces, and it is symbolized somehow through the reserve forces. And yes, we in Germany, we do not have, it might sound weird when I say this here in Poland, but we do not have this tradition of reserve forces, and our society is always very skeptic on bringing close links together between the armed forces and the society. And so I'm very interested in this program you invented here in Poland last autumn, because I think this is a good way to enhance the resilience of a society and to explain the necessities of being prepared and being ready also for normal people. Not everyone has to join the armed forces or has to join the reserve forces, but everyone has to know what to do in case of, and how to prepare the best for themselves and their loved ones. And as we see it now in Germany, there's also a transition on that. The solidarity with Ukraine, the people of Ukraine, and also with all countries which are east of us is really high. We see the threat. In Berlin, we somehow feel the threat, and people are more interested how they can engage. And now we have to do something out of that, and we have to bring them into the armed forces. At the moment, we do have 30,000 reservists, which is not 30,000 reservists are training every year. We do have 60,000 in the moment who are prepared and ready to get into the service. We have to enhance this number up to 200,000 within a few years. And we are, of course, allowed to go over these numbers, and we are working on that and trying that as well. I think this is a very decisive moment for the German armed forces and the society. But I'm very optimistic that we go the right way.
General Dymanovsky, of course, if you have any reactions to General Schilling's comments, feel free to do that in regards to Polish experience with reserve forces. But I would also invite you to talk maybe a little bit about the areas where we still depend on the United States. You mentioned the 7 pillars, the necessity to have the precision strike capabilities as sovereign as possible, but at the same time, it's one of the elements where we still rely on the Americans from the hardware to the ISR. So where the gaps, the most important gaps are, and what can we do to actually address them?
Thank you very much for the question. And in fact, as you mentioned, I have covered most of the topics in my previous answer because exactly the 7 areas of development I describe are the answer for the capability gaps we have here in the Polish Armed Forces, but I also believe that across the many of our allies here in Europe. And whenever we assess the military needs, the military capabilities we have to develop, it is always good to start from the mission, from the tasks. So if you analyze you don't have to analyze, you just have to read the NATO strategic papers, and there are 3 core tasks defined for NATO: deterrence and defense, crisis prevention and management, and cooperative security. And I think that we all in this room can agree that by far the most important is deterrence and defense. So that's why we have to develop, we have to build up capabilities to be ready to fulfill this mission. And that is why I will just echo what I said previously. So deep precision strike and integrated air and missile defense. That is something that currently US brings on the table. And if it is all off the table because there is different focus for the American armed forces, that will be a challenge for us. So that's why this is something that we have to beyond the shadow of the doubt develop here in Europe. But apart from that, in order to create environment, to create ecosystem, to apply all those striking capabilities, regardless of whether defensive or offensive, you need ISR, so strategic enablers. ISR, again, so intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, and many of those assets are provided by the US currently. You need strategic communication, and again, that is something that mainly is provided by the United States. And you need also, I mentioned that in my previous answer, electronic warfare assets, which are high demand and low availability assets across the alliance. So definitely those are the capabilities we have to develop. And plus also we are facing the same challenge as mentioned by General Schilling. So human resources, that is something we have to work on because of the trends in demography, because of the competitiveness in the work market. So there are some challenges for us as the armed forces we are facing at the moment. And those challenges are agnostic whether US is supporting us or not. We just have to develop the numbers, I mean, in terms of human resources here in Poland. But just one more remark. This is not only about building up military capabilities, but I think this is much broader than that, and we need a broader look on the deterrence and defense, and that includes the resilience of the nation, resilience of the society, and of course the production capacity and capabilities of our defense industry, including ammunition, and it also includes a proper infrastructure. Both IT and transportation. That's all.
Thank you very much. I hope you have your questions ready. We should have some mics. So I see a couple of hands starting in the second row. Anna, second row to my right.
Much. Anna Denner, the head of International Security Program here in PISM. Thank you all panelists for a very interesting panel. But I have a question to both distinguished generals. How do you see possibilities of cooperation between Poland and Germany in the military field? Of course, we can think that there is a little bit competition, which army should be the bigger one in Europe. However, all of us know that definitely we are the core of Europe, and if we are thinking about deterrence and our common policy towards Russia, but Belarus as well, the cooperation is crucial. So how do you see the possibilities of that? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I suggest we collect a couple of questions. So indeed, let's go to the gentleman in the middle.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hiro Akita from Tokyo, opinion writer of Nikkei. So my question is about the scenario of Russian attack on NATO. There is a several assessment by NATO countries, or maybe even Secretary General Rutte said last year, the end of last year, that there is a possibility that Russia will attack NATO countries within several years. But Russia cannot even, conquer Ukraine. It's in Ukraine itself. So I wonder if what kind of a scenario is likely if Russia really will attack NATO country within coming years. Thank you.
Just to follow up on this question, Chris Zalewski from Warsaw Boym Institute. Do we have open communication channels with Russia on this operational level? Because we know that Americans do speak with Russians. We have some indications that the French would speak also quite regularly, have this kind of operational exchange with our Russian partners. And so should we speak independently as NATO countries with Russia with one voice, or shall we do it as we do it right now, one by one? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I suggest we go back to the panel, starting with General Schilling, John Demanowski, and ending with Ines.
Okay, thank you. I start with the fields of cooperation. I guess we couldn't cooperate too much with each other, and we are constantly identifying new and additional fields of cooperation. I'm absolutely happy that we will see some military engineers from Germany here in Poland, which will support the Eastern Shield initiative, and they will be here on Polish soil and working here to prepare the fortification and to work with that symbol on the freedom of the Polish people, which is very important for me as a German general to say here in Poland that I'm very proud of that initiative. And we have longer cooperations like we have in Stettin in the multinational core Northeast. We have a very successful cooperation with the CTF Baltic for a couple of years now, and we are looking forward to the move of the headquarters to Poland in 2028. We really, we work on those different fields and are trying to identify additional ones every time we meet, which is several times a year. And I don't see, maybe there is the challenge who has the biggest conventional armed forces in Europe. But I think I'm very happy about that challenge. And for Germany, it is important that we have an aim to reach out for, and that we have the political commitment to that aim. And I'm absolutely with you that it is necessary that our both nations in the center of Europe are very strong, and that we have strong armed forces. The question of the scenario, there is a common threat assessment, a joint threat assessment on the NATO level, and there are scenarios which are the basis of our defense planning. And I'm not able to explain you the reasons, but what we see is that Russia is not spending all their capabilities on the war in Ukraine. They are preparing for something additional. They have capabilities they don't use now, and we see that they that the way they equip and they posture their forces is a threat for NATO countries, and so we are preparing on scenarios which are accepted from all NATO countries, and so therefore every nation knows what its role is in those defense planning. Looking or talking about communication channels to Russia, this is to be honest, nothing to talk about in the public, which is, I guess, clear when we look at those questions. So therefore, I can't answer the question. But what I can say is, and this is for every communication very important, that of course it should be the same way with the same messages, and we have to guarantee the coherence of the alliance, especially communicating when there is communication and takes place, whether on the level of the heads of governments or of a different one.
If I'm not mistaken, there is a line of communication between Sakar and the Russian chief of general staff. The question is whether the Russians are picking up the phone or the device that we are using. So in terms of mill-to-mill mill-to-mill emergency communication, I guess on the NATO side, there is a possibility to engage the Russians if needed during incidents or accidents. General Demanovsky?
Thank you very much. Very briefly, question number one about the cooperation between Poland and Germany. Most of the topics have been already covered by Dr. Schilling, so I will just would like to draw your attention that, to put you in the picture, from my perspective, the military cooperation from Poland can be done along two axes. Vertical, which is the Nordic states, Baltic states, Romania and Turkey, and horizontal, which is the depth and the many logistic depths and reinforcement by forces and fires. And this depth for Poland is provided by Germany. So this is a starting point, a cornerstone from our cooperation. So that's why it's so important to work together. Plus, of course, Germany have the troops in Lithuania, so that's why they are also enhancing deterrence and defense posture along the eastern flank of NATO. So I think that what we can do, what we can also develop, it's still continuing to align our defense plans, both between Poland and Germany and between NATO. That's number one. Number two, of course, common training and exercises. We have been doing a lot, but there is always room for improvement. Common armaments programs and research and development programs, that might be something which is not a particularly military area of expertise, but might be done between our industries or research and development entities. I think that very important element is strategic communication. It's always good, but it is aligned and it is very cohesive and united, especially when it is sent, when we are sending signals towards Russia. So, plus, of course, there are issues that have been already done and for which we are very grateful for, like deployment of the troops here in Poland to show our unity. So we had the German air policing team here in Malbork. I don't know why in Malbork. Joke. And of course, ground-based air defense forces. So that's very important signal, not only to Russia, but also to our societies that we are working together. And I think a good example of the cooperation we have had with Germany recently is the fact that now we will, together with Germany, have a rotational position of the commander of the Joint Force Brunsum, one of the most important commands in the NATO command structure. So it will be either Polish or German four-star general holding this post in a 3-year rotational tour. So that's very important. Scenarios. So there are plenty of scenarios we're taking into considerations. As General Schilling said, we have a common threat assessment in NATO. So we know, we have analysis, what are the most likely, most probable threats and how to respond to them. But of course, the portfolio of Russia is getting bigger and bigger, wider and wider. So that's why we also are expanding the portfolio of our potential responses. And just observing the situation in Ukraine, you can add some additional scenarios which you have to take into account, which are feasible for Russia, even without stopping the war against Ukraine. And I will stop here.
Thank you.
And finally, about the communication, yes, it is very important, but from my perspective, it should be done as an alliance communication. So it should be always one signal, very cohesive signal, very united signal, because Russia will always use any cracks and any division between allies, and it will exploit them to achieve their strategic objectives. That's all.
Thank you. Ambassador, over to you.
Not much time, just a few words on also strategic communications and on these scenarios when Russia will attack. I don't like them at all. I would not endorse that. I'm sometimes surprised. These experts, in 2 years Russia will attack, in 3 years Russia will attack. I don't know whom it helps. Russia having fun about that on their own TV. No need to add anything, just to show how we are divisive, how we are weak, how we're lacking everything, expertise, whatever. I never heard from Ukrainians like that. Never complaining about lack of manpower, ammunition, which was problematic, or cutting military support by United States, for instance, or Europeans doing too slowly. Never, never, ever. And today, Minister Sibiga told that time is approaching. He told something like that. The time is approaching when time will be on their side. It's an optimistic statement, but if it's partly true, it's also okay. So let's focus on our tasks to unlock our potential, because we are strong Europeans, but we are lazy sometimes. We are bureaucratic. We are taking time for us to... Ukrainians, by the way, saving time. Ukrainians fighting and saving to us time to make us better. So that's the reason why we can do it more so to say slowly. But I believe otherwise, let's make our strategic communication offensive rather than defensive.
Thank you very much. I don't know how about you, but I'm very encouraged by our panel. We are not admiring the problem or listing the challenges, but actually talking about our actions and translating strategy into specific capabilities and specific deterrence potential. So please join me in thanking Generals Schilling and Dymanowski and Ambassador Linkevičius for excellent discussions.
Thank you to all the panelists. And Łukasz, you know the drill. I would like to invite you up to talk about the main takeaways from your panel.
Łukasz, what did this panel add to the previous session about strategically lonely Europe? Did it make the challenges that we are facing look somehow more manageable?
I think in the previous session, we established that the change is happening, that the change is real, not connected to particular individuals like President Trump. So there'll be less US in European security. And even if we don't talk about divorce, we would be talking about different ways of coexisting. And in this session, I think we establish how we adjust to this new reality. The bigger players, let me put it like this, Poland and Germany, where the militaries are planning and implementing the new set of plans of capabilities, and also Lithuania with its particular location, with its particular impact and experience. So I think in a sense it wasn't about saying that we have a problem, but indeed about saying what we are doing about it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Łukasz, for your insight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.